So hey guys, what's up? In this video, we are going to talk about the Charter of 1726. This charter was passed in the year 1726 and it was passed so that the judicial administration in the three presidencies which were established in India, which were Bombay, Madras and Calcutta, the administration in all these three presidencies, it could be made uniform and linear. So without further ado, let's get started. This charter was issued by King George II on 24th September 1726. Remember this, guys? Who was the person who issued this charter? The person was King George II. Before 1726, we find that the judicial administration of the three presidencies, which were Madras, Bombay and Calcutta, were vague and arbitrary. But after the passing of the 1726 charter, the administration of the presidency, it became uniform and regular, and it also established civil and criminal courts uniformly in all the three presidencies. The civil court, we find that, was called as the Mayor's Court, and on the other hand the criminal court was called the Governor and Council's Court, and both of these courts were the royal courts. What was the advantage of these courts being the royal court? The advantage was that their decisions were authoritative as court in England, because the source of authority of these courts were the English crown. This charter, it also started the system of appeals from the Indian courts to the Privy Council in the England. Privy Council, it acted as a bridge between the Indian judicial system and the British judicial system to make the laws consistent with the local needs. Under the Charter of 1726, the Privy Council, it acted as a bridge between the Indian judicial system and British judicial system. Under this charter, the British government in India, it was empowered to make the laws and regulations so as to meet the local needs, and for that a municipal corporation was established in each presidency town. The reason for establishment of municipal corporation in each presidency town was that it was the need of the hour to have a powerful machinery and better administration. Second, since the trade and the commerce of the company was increasing, so was the crime, and to handle such criminal cases as well as to handle such crimes, there was a need to have a proper municipal corporation. Also, they needed competent courts with testamentary and interstate jurisdiction. Testamentary and interstate jurisdiction, guys, it is related with the will, that is wasiyat of a person. And before 1726 charter, we find that, as I have already mentioned, that there was no uniformity between all the three presidency towns. They had their own rules and regulations, they had their own judicial administration. Likewise, we find that in Madras there was a municipal corporation which was established in 1687, and there was no such provision for municipal corporation in Calcutta or Bombay. Now we move ahead. Let us look at what were the provisions of the charter. First, the charter, it laid the establishment of the local legislature in all the three presidencies under governor and council. Governor and 5 council members got legislative power to make laws and bylaws as well as rules and regulations, but they were to exercise this power under 2 conditions. What were these 2 conditions? The first one was that the laws had to be fair, just and reasonable, and second, that they shouldn't be contradicting to the laws in England. So if a law was not reasonable or it was unjust, it discriminated between the people, or it was against, or it was not like the laws which were present in England at that time, these types of laws could not be made by the local legislature in India. The second provision of this charter was the establishment of municipal corporation, which consisted of a mayor and 9 aldermen. The mayor and 9 aldermen were to be the British citizens, and the other 2 aldermen could be of any nationality. The governor and council, they did not have any say in the appointment or dismissal of the mayor and 9 aldermen. The problem which arose due to this was that there was a constant tussle between the mayor and aldermen as well as governor and council to establish their supremacy and hegemony. And because of this, we find that after some years a new charter was passed which decreased the power of the mayor and aldermen and increased the powers of the governor and council. The third provision was the establishment of royal courts in all the three presidencies. What was the hierarchy of the royal courts? The highest authority in the royal courts was the Privy Council, which was present in England. After that, we find that there was the Court of Governor and Council, and below that we find that there was the Mayor's Court. Now let us look at what was the composition as well as the function of the Mayor's Court. So the quorum which was required to initiate the proceedings in the Mayor's Court, it was Mayor plus 3 aldermen. And what was the jurisdiction? The jurisdiction of the Mayor's Court was the civil cases, including the testamentary as well as interstate jurisdiction. As I've already mentioned, one of the reasons because of which there was a need for Charter of 1726 was the fact that they needed a court which had both testamentary as well as interstate jurisdiction, and the Mayor's Court had the testamentary as well as interstate jurisdiction. The first appeal from Mayor's Court lay to the Governor's Court, and it was to be appealed within 14 days. The second appeal from the Governor's Court, it lay to the Privy Council, and also in this case we find that it had to be appealed within 14 days, and it was only available for those cases where the subject matter was above 1000 pagodas. The Mayor's Court was also a court of record, that is, their decisions could be used as precedents, and it could also punish for the contempt of the court. Now guys, there are two types of contempts of the court. The first one is civil contempt, the second is the criminal contempt. In civil contempt, we find that if you don't follow the orders of the court, you are violating the civil contempt, and if you are publishing something or saying something which scandalizes the authority or lowers the authority of the court, and if you are obstructing the justice, then also these both cases it lead to the criminal contempt of the court. Also, the Mayor's Court was given the power to appoint a sheriff, and this sheriff is equal to the modern day bailiff, police as well as a magistrate. Now let us look at what were the composition as well as the powers and jurisdiction of the Governor and Council's Court. The Governor and Council's Court, it had a criminal jurisdiction. It was also a court of appeal, and the appeals from the Mayor's Court were laid to the Governor and Council's Court. The Governor and Council's Court had 5 members, and all the 5 members were the Justice of Peace. This court was called Court of Quarter Session because it sat only 4 times in a year. Like the Mayor's Court, this court was also a court of record, and it had the combined powers of court of oyer and terminer as well as jail delivery. Guys, this GAIL, it is pronounced as jail, JAIL, jail delivery. And they conducted the trials with the help of jury, and the jury consisted of 5 to 7 people. In both the civil court as well as criminal court, a proper procedure was to be followed, and this procedure was to be followed because of the fact that now Privy Council was made the highest appellate court, and Privy Council needed the other courts also to follow some procedure and standards. That is why we find that these courts also started following certain procedures to conduct the trials. Now let us look at the Privy Council. We find that this charter started the system of appeals from the courts in India to the Privy Council in England, as well as we find that this Privy Council, after it was made the highest appellate court, it became a channel between the Indian and European judicial systems. The Privy Council saw to it that whenever Indian laws, Indian customs, traditions, or the customary laws, when they were sufficient, English laws and principles were introduced so that justice could prevail. And when in 1833, first time the codification of laws took place, Indians, they were not new or alien to the English laws. They had already been accustomed to the English laws. So guys, that is it for this video. In the next video, we will discuss the various reforms undertaken by Lord Cornwallis. In that, we will discuss what were the judicial reforms as well as the police reforms and the reforms in the revenue system. So guys, stay tuned. And also, if you liked the video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. I will also provide the link of the blog in the description box below. So go ahead and check out the blog so that you will have notes in your hand and it will be easier for you to revise the topic. So hey guys, what's up?
Tell me pretty lies,